Hare Krishna Mata. Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna everybody. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, Chapter 8, Verse 18. क एष यो स्वहम्बभुज पृष्ठा एतात् कुतो भजम् अनन्द्य अप्सु अस्तिदास्तिदायिक किचैननेत दधिष्ठितं यत्र सतानुभाव्यम्.
Lord Brahma, in his ignorance, contemplated, who am I that am situated on the top of this lotus? Wherefrom has it sprouted? There must be something downwards, and that from which this lotus has grown must be within the water.
Verse 19. Sa ichamudhiksha tad abujnala nadir birantal jalama vivesha narvagastastha kharanala nala narbi vichiswandita vandivittatajah.
Lord Brahma, thus contemplating, entered the water through the channel of the stem of the lotus. But in spite of entering the stem and going nearer to the navel of Vishnu, he could not trace out the root.
Verse 20. Tamasya pare viduratma sarga vichinvito bhu samsahitam strinemi yo deha bhaja bhayamirayana parikshanotyaurajasya heti.
O Vidur, while searching in that way about his existence, Brahma reaches ultimate time, which is the eternal wheel in the hand of Vishnu, and which generates fear in the mind of the living entity, like the fear of death.
Verse 21. Tato nivruto pratilabdha kamaha swadishena samasadya punah sadevah shane jita swanivruta chitto nashida daruda samadhi yoga.
Thereafter, being unable to achieve the desired destination, he retired from such searching and came back again to the top of the lotus. Thus, controlling all objectives, he concentrated his mind on the Supreme Lord.
Verse 22. Kalena soja purushayushabi pravruta yogena viruddha bodha swayam tadanta hridayeva bhata ma pashyata pashyata yanya purvam.
At the end of Brahma's 100 years, when his meditation was complete, he developed the required knowledge, and as a result he could see in his heart the Supreme within himself, whom he could not see before with the greatest endeavor.
Verse 23. Mrunala yata shesha bhoga paryanka ekam purusham shayanam fanat patra yutamurta ratna durbihantva yuganta toye.
Brahma could see that on the water there was a gigantic lotus-like white bedstead, the body of Sheshnag, on which the personality of Godhead was lying alone. The whole atmosphere was illuminated by the rays of the jewels bedecking the hood of Sheshnag, and that illumination dissipated all the darkness of those regions.
Verse 24. Preksham kshipantam haritopaladrai sanyadi brinni verurukumurdha ratnodarado disado somanasya व्रणस्त्रजो वेणुभुजाङ्घ्रिपाङ्घ्रे.
The lotus of the transcendental body of the Lord mocked the beauty of the coral mountain. The coral mountain is very beautifully dressed by the evening sky, but the yellow dress of the Lord mocked its beauty. There is gold on the summit of the mountain, but the Lord's helmet bedecked with jewels mocked it. The mountain's waterfalls, herbs, etc., with a panorama of flowers, seem like garlands, but the Lord's gigantic body and his hands and legs, decorated with jewels, pearls, tulsi leaves, and flower garlands, mocked the scene of the mountain.
Verse 25. आयामतो विस्तरतः स्वमान देहेन लोकत्रयसङ्ग्रहेण विचित्रदिव्याभरणां शुकानां कृतश्रिया प्राश्रितवेषदेहम्.
His transcendental body, unlimited in length and breadth, occupied the three planetary systems, upper and middle and lower. His body was self-illuminated by unparalleled dress and variegatedness, and was properly ornamented.
Verse 26. पुंसा स्वकामाय विविक्तमार्गै रभ्यं चर्ता कामदुदाङ्घ्रिपद्मं प्रयदर्शयन्त कृपया नखेन्दु मयूखभिन्नाङ्गुलिचारुपत्रम्.
The Lord showed his lotus feet by raising them. His lotus feet are the source of all awards achieved by devotional service, free from material contamination. Such awards are for those who worship him in pure devotion. The splendor of the transcendental rays from his moon-like toenails and fingernails appeared like the petals of a flower.
Verse 27. मुखेन लोकार्तिहरिस्मितेन परिस्फुरकुण्डलिमण्डितेन शोणायितेनागरबिम्बभासा प्रत्यर्हयन्तं सुनसेन सुप्रभा.
He also acknowledged the service of the devotees and vanquished their distress by his beautiful smile. The reflection of his face, decorated with earrings, was so pleasing because it dazzled with the rays of his lips and the beauty of his nose and eyebrows.
Verse 28. कदम्बकिञ्चल कपिशसाङ्ग पिशङ्गवाससा स्वलं कृतमेखलया नितम्बे हारेण चानन्तधनेन वत्स श्रीवत्स्य वक्षस्थलवल्लभेन.
O my dear Vidura, the Lord's waist was covered with yellow cloth resembling the saffron dust of the kandamba flower, and it was encircled by a well-decorated belt. His chest was decorated with the Srivastava, marking and a necklace of unlimited value.
Verse 29. पराध्यकेयूरमणि प्रवेक पर्यस्तदुर्दसहस्रशाखम् अव्यक्तमूलाम्बुवान् द्रिपेन्द्र महीन्द्र भोगेर अधिविता वल्सम्.
As a sandalwood tree is decorated with fragrant flowers and branches, the Lord's body was decorated with valuable jewels and pearls. He was a self-situated tree, the Lord of all others in the universe. And as a sandalwood tree is covered with many snakes, so the Lord's body was also covered by the hoods of Ananta.
Verse 30. चराचरौको भगवन् महिग्र महीन्द्र बन्धु सलिलोपगूढम् किरीट सहस्राहिण शृङ्गम् हिरण्याशृङ्गम् भाविर्भवत्को कौस्तुभम् रत्नगर्भम्.
Like a great mountain, the Lord stands as the abode for all moving and non-moving living entities. He is the friend of the snakes because Lord Ananta is his friend. As a mountain has thousands of golden peaks, so the Lord was seen with the thousands of golden helmeted hoods of Anantanaga. And as a mountain is sometimes filled with jewels, so also his transcendental body was fully decorated with valuable jewels. As a mountain is sometimes submerged in the ocean water, so the Lord is sometimes submerged in the water of devastation.
Verse 31. Nivetamamna yamadruvat shriya swakirtamaya manamalaya harim suryenduvaya tridamabhihi parikrama parthana kiradura sadam.
Lord Brahma, thus looking upon the Lord in the shape of a mountain, concluded that he was Hari, the personality of Godhead. He saw that the garland of flowers on his chest glorified him with Vedic wisdom in sweet songs and looked very beautiful. He was protected by the Sudarshana wheel for fighting, and even the sun, moon, air, fire, etc. could not have access to him.
Verse 32. Tayeva tanna bisara saroja atma tamba swasanam vyacha dadarsha devo jagato vidata nata param loka visarga drashtihi.
When Lord Brahma, the maker of the universal destination, thus saw the Lord, he simultaneously glanced over creation. Lord Brahma saw the lake in Lord Vishnu's navel and the lotus flower, as well as the devastating water, the drying air, and the sky, all became visible to him.
Verse 33. Sakarma bijam rajaso paraktah praja srishrakshanya deva drushtva asato dvisarga bimukhastamiya mavyaktam bivisheta shitatma.
Lord Brahma, thus being surcharged with the mode of passion, became inclined to create, and after seeing the 5 causes of creation indicated by the personality of Godhead, he began to offer his respectful prayers on the path of the creative mentality.
Hare Krishna. Please forgive my any mistake. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Pushti, Devi Mataji, and Bhakti Niti, Devi, thank you for your recitation. Welcome, dear devotees, to today's chat session. Today we complete chapter 8. Well, we've completed and we're going to do a summary of chapter 8 entitled Manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Yeah. So before we start, we'll recite the Mangalam Charanam prayers. Please feel free to join in via unmuted mics. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutan Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastete Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutidevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivashadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya, Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhaktivedanta, Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Aschacha Deshatarine, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, dear devotees, let me share my screen. So we are dealing with chapter number 8, entitled The Manifestation of Brahma from Kapadakshayi Vishnu. So the chapter itself is 33 verses long, and it's broken up into certain sections. The first section, verses 1 to 9, talks about the cyclic succession of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then text 10 to 14, there's a description of the reawakening of creation. And it's interesting that the word reawakening is being used, because we've understood that the creation goes through phases of manifestation and then dissolution, and then manifestation, dissolution. The beginning of Lord Brahma's day, there's manifestation. The end of his day, there is dissolution, and for 20 period. Then we've discussed Lord Brahma's birth and his search for the absolute truth. That's verses 15 to 23. And then verses 24 to 33 is the beautiful darshan of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And now, previous to this chapter, there's descriptions of how the universe becomes manifested. There is description of how the Lord manifests the different creations, the different elements and ingredients. And now in this chapter, there's the description of how to say the secondary creation takes place. Actually, this is an incredible chapter because we are getting insight to the most extraordinary event in the universe, and that is creation. How the universe comes to being has been a topic of investigation and deliberation and discussion for philosophers and scientists for unlimited years. And all of this is based on speculation. Even today, there are so many origins of the universe theories, and there's no agreement among scientists about what is an acceptable theory. But here, based on the inductive process of knowledge, which is the Vedic process, where knowledge comes down from a superior source, there's no need for speculation. We receive that knowledge, and then we try to understand. Therefore, it's so interesting that the way this chapter starts. This chapter starts with the cyclic succession of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, why is this so significant? It's really significant because we are now listening to Maitreya Muni discussing all aspects of creation to Vidura. So a question may be, this knowledge that Maitreya Muni is giving to Vidura about the creation, where is this coming from? Where and how did he receive this knowledge? Because that's an important consideration in Vedic systems of knowledge. We need to understand what is the source of knowledge that we are receiving. And we see at the beginning of this chapter a description of the disciplic succession of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the slide there, you can see how, Srimad Bhagavatam in verses 3 to 9 describes the parampara. And what do we see there? If we trace this knowledge that Maitreya is imparting to Vidura, what is the source of that knowledge? The source of that knowledge is Lord Sankarshan, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this knowledge about creation is coming from the Lord itself. Therefore, because it's coming from the Lord itself, via Maitreya Muni to Vidura, we can have full faith in this knowledge. We don't have to have any doubts. And incredibly, we get transplanted in this chapter to the very beginning events of this creation. It's almost like, we are sitting through a window and we are watching how creation is taking place. And that is incredible. It's completely incredible what we are receiving and how we are receiving it. And this is Srimad Bhagavatam for us. So the chapter starts in this very interesting way about the parampara. And then we move on, and then I'll go later on to another part here. We move on to Maitreya Maitreya Muni describing the awakening of creation, and Lord Brahma's journey, which we'll go into a bit more detail. But I just wanted to share this particular slide with y'all. It's described that the Lord lay down for 1,000 years. And 1,000 yuga cycles. And then now the Lord glanced. But this picture that we are discussing, it said it is below Patala Loka. So we know there's the higher planetary systems. There's the middle planetary systems, Bhumandala, where earthly planet, and there's the low planetary systems. So we know the universe is like an egg with multifold coverings, and we know that it's hollow space. But right at the bottom of the universe is what we've called the Garbhodaka ocean. Right at the bottom of the universe is the Garbhodaka ocean. And in this ocean lies Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And here we're seeing the picture. He's lying on Anantashesh, and his feet are being massaged by Lakshmi Devi. This is another picture. Again, it's shown in a circular form. The multiple coverings of the universe. It's the hollow. There's Bhumandala here. There's the upper planetary system below, and then there's the Garbhodaka ocean, in which Garbhodakshayi Vishnu lies. So that'll be interesting just to have a look at that architecture. So let me just stop there. I will now go to the Bhagavat Subodhini, summary of the chapter. So as we've described previously, the first 9 chapter talks about the disciplic succession of the Lord, and how this knowledge is coming down. And so after explaining the descent of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which, as I mentioned, is most interesting, we move to the section of the regeneration of the creation after the end of the night of Lord Brahma. So the universe submerged in the dissolution waters. It would seem like, the diagram I showed you previously, the entire universe, the hollow that I spoke about, the entire universe, the entire hollow of the egg shape gets filled with dissolution waters. Gets filled with dissolution waters. And, the Lord lays down, and then when the Lord lays down, he glances down. All of these living entities, subtle living entities, are in his body. And when he glances, he agitates the subtle matter of creation. And after agitating the subtle matter of creation, from that sprouts the lotus from the navel of the Lord. And in that lotus, we see the birth of Lord Brahma, who is the first self-born living entity known as Swayambhuvam. And Lord Brahma is seated there on the center of the universe, and he looks around in 4 directions, and it explained how he got his 4 heads from that process. And he's perplexed. As we say, we're all born into darkness of ignorance, knowing nothing. That same applied to Lord Brahma. He was completely perplexed. He did not know what's going on. And he contemplates that I'm situated on the top of the lotus. This lotus must have a source. So if I go to the bottom of this lotus, then I'll find my source. So in that very intelligent thinking, he decides to go to the bottom of the, enters the stem, and he decides to go to the bottom. And he tries to trace out the root of the bottom, but he fails. And his duration of life is decreasing. So after his failure, he comes back up to the top of the lotus, and then he concentrates his mind on the Lord, and he performs austerity. And he meditates for 100 human years, it said, not Brahma's years. He cannot see the Lord within the heart. He can see. He gets to see the Lord within the heart. This meditation, it's a very special type of darshan where one can see the Lord within the heart. That is described also in Brahma Samhita, how within the hearts of the hearts the devotee sees him. So Lord Brahma sees the Lord, and when he sees the Lord, I want to just share, just moving out of it here. So Lord Brahma, he has this view. Can you see my screen? Lord Brahma.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so this is like a plan view of Lord Brahma. Why is it not getting full? Anyway, this is a plan view of Lord Brahma. He's on top of the lotus flower and he's looking down. And then when he looks down, he sees the Lord being merciful to him after Lord Brahma done the austerity. He sees the Lord. Here's another picture. Oh, you know what? Something's going on here. The slideshow is somewhere else. Yeah. So that's Lord Brahma. A nice view. This is what he saw. And it's so incredible that Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us an in-depth vision of what Lord Brahma saw. It's just mind-boggling, you know, what we are receiving from Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is another view. It's the Lord's navel, and Lord Brahma is seeing the Lord from that perspective. So now let's just talk a bit about what he's seeing, because this is like the cream of this chapter. What Lord Brahma sees. First, he sees this is verse 24 to 33. He sees the Lord. Now, how do you describe, such an incredible scene? How can Bhagavatam make it relatable to us? Because we are like Dr. Frog, we can only relate to what our experience we have. Things beyond our experience is a challenge for us to experience. So Bhagavatam, so beautifully, trying to bring everything within the sphere of our experience, now compares the beauty of the Lord to a mountain. The beauty of the Lord to a mountain. And firstly, the bodily luster is compared to a coral mountain. Even that for us is quite difficult to conceive of. But maybe we see some coral. We don't have experience of what a coral mountain is. But of all the beautiful aspects of a mountain, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, the coral mountain has the most beautiful luster. So firstly, the Lord's beauty is compared to the coral mountain. And then his yellowish garments is compared to the evening sky. When it is a certain time of the day, it's amazing, the evening sky. One would think the evening sky you don't see because it's black. So what we're probably talking about here is the beautiful dawn, of the sky, where we get this incredible view of the sun that's setting. Then the Lord's helmet, bedecked with jewels, is compared to the golden summit of the mountain. I recently, I couldn't relate to this, but I recently saw a photograph of Kailash mountain, where the sun was shining on the top of the mountain, and the entire mountain looked like a magnificent golden summit. It was like an incredible. It's a pity I should have saved it and shared it, but it's such an incredible picture. So the Lord's helmet is like that, and the Lord's limbs with ornaments, tulsi and garlands. So the Lord's limbs are described with tulsi and garlands and ornaments. And just like a mountain is extremely beautiful when it has waterfalls, it's covered in fragrant herbs and colorful flowers. It's an incredible sight to behold. So this is what Lord Brahma was seeing. This incredible beauty of the Lord, which Srimad Bhagavatam now compares to a mountain. And then something incredible. Then we describe the grandeur of the Lord's body. Text number 25. It's a pity I can't be, shifting from the verses to. I don't know if I shift here, would you be able? Are you seeing the Veda
Yes,
base now?
Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Oh, okay, that's great. That's great. Then I can shift to the text. We can refer to it then. So his transcendental body, unlimited in length and breadth, occupied the three planetary systems, upper, lower, and middle. His body was self-illuminated by unparalleled dress and variegatedness and was properly ornamented. So it is described, the Lord was so huge, that in length, that means he's lying down in the ocean, in length, it occupies the same length from the topmost planet to the bottom of. So an incredible sight in terms of scope and size. And his body was self-illuminated, and his dress was unparalleled and variegatedness and was properly ornamented. So here we're seeing that incredible description. Oh, now where did I lose this? Sorry. Oh, it's here. Okay. So from there we look in text number 25, the grandeur of the Lord. And then something quite beautiful happens, because what we see in this verse here, the next verse 26, is the Lord's merciful nature to Lord Brahma, the Lord's affectionate nature to Lord Brahma. It is only those who are very dear to the Lord get to see the lotus feet of the Lord. So the Lord mercifully shows one of his lotus feet to Lord Brahma. And that is such an incredible benediction. And it is said that lotus feet of the Lord, it awards all desired fruits of pure bhakti. Pure bhakti meaning bhakti free from gyan and karma. And his splendorous moon-like toenails appear like the petals of a flower. Again, Srimad Bhagavatam has got a really difficult task. It's trying to convey to souls like us that are so tiny in our brains, so limited in our experience. But Bhagavatam says, okay, you want to know what the toenails of the Lord looks like? They look like the petals of a flower. And if we conjure up what the petals of a flower looks like, it is soft, it's colorful, it's attractive. So after describing that, what do we see? Text number 27. We get experience of the Lord's smile. The the beautiful smile of the Lord. And again, I'm going to be sharing text number 27. Sorry, the word is a bit difficult to navigate here. He also acknowledged the service of the devotees and vanquished their distress by his beautiful smile. The reflection of his face decorated with the earrings was so pleasing because it dazzled with the rays from his lips and the beauty of his nose and eyebrows. In the purport, Prabhupada explains how, like this verse is saying, we are now going to the beautiful smiling face. And what is the beautiful smiling face? Is manifested because as an acknowledgement of the service of the devotees. So the devotees, those who aspire to see the beautiful face and the beautiful smile of the Lord, that is only accomplished by devotional service. Only accomplished by devotional service. And all aspects of the Lord's face is being described here. And then the Lord is described in text number 29. The Lord is compared to the sandalwood tree. And so let me just move this. The sandalwood tree. Now, the description of the sandalwood tree is very, very interesting. So the valuable jewels and the pearls on the arms, what is that compared to on the sandalwood tree? It's like the fragrant flowers and branches. The flowers, fragrant flowers, and the branches, they decorate the tree, the sandalwood tree. Then the Lord is the origin of all others in the universe. That's the self-situated tree whose roots cannot be seen. The Lord is the origin of everything and we cannot trace out. Then the Lord is the protector of the whole world. And the sandalwood tree is known as the king of all trees. Just like the king protects the citizens, the Lord is the protector of the whole world. And then the sandalwood trees are normally covered by many snakes. So in the same way, the Lord is covered by the many hoods of Ananta. So, that comparison again that's being selected by Bhagavatam is just so beautiful, so magnificent. It's making an appropriate comparison between the sandalwood tree. And just like the smell of the sandalwood permeates the whole environment, the Lord's fame, he perfumes the entire universe. Then in text number 30, the Lord is compared to a mountain. Just like the mountain is the shelter of all moving and non-moving entities. It gives many creatures shelters. So many creatures take shelter in the mountains and its forests. In the same way, the Lord is the shelter of all moving and non-moving entities. The mountain is known to be the friend of the snakes. Why? It has many caves where the snakes go. It has many forests where the snakes take shelter. And the same way, the Lord is the shelter of Ananta, or he is Lord Ananta. And he's the friend, as Lord Ananta, he's the friend of all snakes. When I read this, I'm generally quite averse to snakes. When I read this today, and I was thinking how the Lord is described as the friend to all of the snakes. I was thinking to myself, I need to learn to become less afraid of snakes now, because they're all friends of Lord Ananta. Just like sometimes the mountain range has thousands of golden peaks. There's thousands of golden helmeted hoods of Ananta. You know, Ananta he's got thousands of hoods, all with helmets. He's decorated with valuable jewels, and we know, where do we find jewels? In the mountains, and sometimes submerged in water by the ocean, the mountains. The Lord sometimes gets submerged by the ocean. So after seeing this, Lord Brahma is thinking, who am I seeing? Then he's thinking that he's seeing the Lord was being glorified with Vedic hymns by the garlands on his chest, surrounded by his weapons and associates, unapproachable by devatas. Lord Brahma concluded that he is Lord Hari. So we get confirmation this is Lord Hari. And the moment he gets this darshan, which is again another incredible instruction for us, what does he think of? He thinks about service. So the nature of a devotee is it's just like the devotees in Santaras. They see the form of the Lord and they just look at the Lord and they admire the Lord and they enjoy that. But those in Dasya Ras, which is higher above Santaras, what happens? The first thing they do is that we think of service. So this is the mode of a devotee. A devotee is not only thinking of how I can get the darshan of the Lord. He's thinking more of how he can serve the Lord. This morning I was on the altar in the temple. I got deity service in the morning. And one thing I learned is, it's an incredible opportunity. The moment you enter the altar in the morning, just after the greetings, the Lord is so magnificently dressed. And the first inclination is to want to stand there and admire the beauty of the Lord. But we've been taught about as pujaris, that's not our business. That's our business is simply to just start serving. So the first thing we go onto the altar, we start cleaning the floor and things. And actually, the only time I really get to see the Lord is when I'm doing the arati. Before that, it's just service, taking the, sweeping the, mopping the floor, wiping the floor, sweeping the floor, mopping the floor, setting up the tables, making the Lord's plate, bringing it, feeding the Lord. And before that time, I've never even looked at the Lord. It's just like, it's service. So the same way, Lord Brahma, I was thinking about this today. The first thing he thinks about is service. How to give pleasure to Krishna, to service. We're not worried about our own enjoyment. And said here, Lord Brahma could see 5 factors. And then he begins to offer prayers, which is the next chapter. So I'll stop here. If any questions or comments or reflections, please share, dear devotees. It's a really beautiful chapter. And it's like we have to feel very privileged to be experiencing what we've experienced in this chapter, because we are getting an incredible insight here, both into the creation and the Lord himself. Not just cursory information, beautiful, detailed descriptions of the Lord. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. We hear so much about Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, but now we are experiencing in this chapter descriptions of the Lord, this Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the nice class. we are privileged to have you to explain to us about all these creation. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Indulika Mataji. Thank you. Anyone else? Any comments or reflections, or questions, or corrections also? No? Okay. Thank you very much, dear devotees. All glories to your service. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyavacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Hare
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Yeah,
Hare
Prabhuji, thank you
Krishna.
so much.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.